What is up, fight fans? Jordan Kurtz here with the MMA Plug presented to you by Mile High Sports. We are coming to you live from number 38. It's down here off of Chestnut in Rhino. Come down, check it out. It's a great atmosphere to check out some games. TVs all over the place. There is nothing that you can't want as a sports fan when you come down here, right? Take a step in here, see TVs all around. They got burgers, they've got sandwiches, they've got wings, they've got everything that you could want to come in here and watch games. It's the perfect time to be a sports fan and finding spots to be with March Madness on the horizon. So again, come check them out right here at number 38 off of Chestnut. Want to give a shout out to the entire Mile High Sports crew across the board. There is, like I say, a ton of things that are going on in the sports world, even though it's kind of a dead period with the NFL just ending the season. But things are starting to ramp up as far as offseason with draft talk, pro days, combines, all of that sort. You've got the SCO Show with Danilo. The SCO Show has their own Buffalo Blonde, their exclusive beer that's now available. So make sure that you go check that out at Resolute Brewing. Like I say, there is a lot of things that are happening right now in the Colorado sports world. You have the NHL with Nate McKinnon going on another MVP-esque type of tear. You have the NBA with Nikola Jokic looking to pick up another MVP honor to his resume as well. He's crushing through historic milestones out there. You have Major League Baseball in spring training. That's in full motion right now. But unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, we can already see the Rockies are gonna suck. Over the last year, just to put all things in perspective, because it has been a great time to be a Colorado sports fan, you had CU and CSU in football making bowls for the football season. You had Colorado having their first native undisputed UFC champion. The Avs, the Nuggets, and the Broncos all made the postseason. You have the resurgence of the Broncos. You have a face of the franchise now in Bo Nix at the helm of quarterback after a strong push, fell short, but a big push for a rookie of the year type of campaign for the Broncos. So you have all of those teams doing well with bona fide stars on their rosters. And then you have the Rockies. The Rockies are like the retarded inbred cyclops that's hidden down in the basement in Harold and Kumar. They just can't figure it out. But all across the board, again, there is no shortage of headlines and things that are hitting the news with the sports world out there. The core four, you've got, again, the NCAA tournament that's coming up here in just a few days. Make sure that you keep it locked at the Mile High Sports Network. They will keep you up to date with everything all across the board: podcast network, YouTube channel, website, magazine. Check out the new magazine with Nuggets coach Mike Malone, as well as his daughter, featured on the cover of the magazine there. Like I say, there is a lot of great things going on with Mile High Sports Network. Check them out there. For the Colorado Rundown, ladies and gentlemen, we always like to stress the message that if you can, please pick up the tickets directly from the fighters. It directly benefits them, and it supports the product all the way around. Your support, whether it is watching the stream or whether it is going in person, that allows us to be able to do what we do. We can't do it without you. So thank you for your continued support in the process. Coming up this weekend, now it's not directly in Colorado, but from the Denver area, it's just a short 4-hour drive to North Platte, Nebraska. Go check out Midwest Championship Fighting. Either that, or you could check out the stream. We're going to have a little bit more details on that show coming up here later on in the program. But again, with Midwest Championship Fighting, that's happening out there March 15th, North Platte, Nebraska. In a couple of weeks, we have Colorado Jiu-Jitsu Club making their return to the Stampede that is going to be for GrappleCon April 5th. We have a couple of big names on the card. We have our friend of the program, former co-host here, and Josh Fremd. He's going to be competing on the card against Tim Bargo. You have a lot of matches that are being finalized right now in the mix. We might have some wrestlers back in the fold, so keep it locked for some more details. You had Dana White announcing the other night on the post-fight press conference that the UFC and their resources are looking to be adding about $10 to $12 million worth of jiu-jitsu products out there to Fight Pass and some of their avenues out there. So again, it's never been a better time to be a fan for grappling, and the sport is growing at such a rapid rate. Catch the wave while you can. Following that, on April 26th, we have the 5280 Thai Fight Series making their return. That is also going to be a Muay Thai matinee over there at the Stampede. You can never go wrong watching these Muay Thai fights over there. We have a couple of big matchups that we're hoping to line up and finalize with some very decorated and recognized pros in the area. Just hoping that a couple of the details that are being in the war room, if you will, the negotiations, all of those things that are above my realm as a broadcaster and a commentator and a influencer for the brand, those are outside of my realm. I just hope that the fight gets made, because when I heard that those two names were being floated, oh my God, ladies and gentlemen, if I can announce these in the next couple of weeks to you, I promise you that that is a fight that is by itself, if it stood alone, that's something that is worth the price of admission. So keep it locked for that. But we're going to transition real quick here for the weekend recap. This weekend recap is being brought to you today by QMPCo.com. QMPCo, check them out. This is a Denver born and bred company. A couple of guys from Denver created the company. Natives to the area, natives to the culture, and wanted to be able to create something of their own. So make sure that you support our local businesses in the area. That is QMPCo.com. We have UFC 313. This was a main event that I think a lot of people were disappointed in, but it wasn't necessarily an outcome that you didn't expect. There were absolutely sequences of that fight that it was made a lot closer than I think maybe I expected it to be. I thought that Ankalaev would potentially run away with it once he started to get into the driver's seat. Again, last week, I picked the champion, but I said that was an all feelings, no facts type of pick. Smart money would go to Ankalaev. Well, that's exactly what happened. It's terrible for business that the biggest star, biggest superstar, if you will, that is actively competing in the sport just lost his title. That's not good for business. But it was close enough of a fight. Ankalaev did not do enough to make it such a definitive performance that you can't say, oh, well, based on his body of work, he doesn't deserve an immediate rematch. Dana already said in the post-fight press conference that, yeah, that's absolutely something that they're going to entertain, is for that post-fight press, or for that fight to be ran back. And I can't disagree with him. I think that the fight was close. I think that there's absolutely a case to be made for Alex to have won the fight also. It all depends on how you score the third round. Really and truly, to me, I think 1 and 5 were for Pereira. How did you score 3? If you go 2, 3, 4 for Ankalaev, well, there's your answer right there. That's the swing. A lot of times in these close, very tightly contested 5-round title fights, there's going to be one swing round that determines the entire thing, and there's going to be some contention to it. Do I think that it was a 49-46? Absolutely not. I think that whoever thought that it was a 49-46 type of card, I question what your knowledge is. Also, I'm not as sold on the unstoppable force or potential unstoppable force of Ankalaev as I once was. There when he had opportunities to do more damage, I mean, he really didn't. Did he score a lot? Absolutely. But did he pulverize Pereira the way that we thought? No. Did he annihilate him with ground and pound, or just completely suffocate him on the canvas? No. None of those things happened. So it is a fight that was left with a splitting hair margin, so that justifies there being a rematch. And I Can't necessarily disagree, because also when you take a look at the lay of the division, that's what we have to take into account here as well when we're looking at, well, who would be next for Ankalaev otherwise. There's not really a strong immediate contender right now for him outside of Yuri. Yuri is the only other guy that is standing right there. If that fight isn't the one, then, again, then what do you do with Yuri beyond that? Because if Alex is right there, he's lost to him twice. I don't know. It creates a little bit of a mess in the process, but you also have the potential for Alex to move up to heavyweight. I mean, he's 37 years old going on 38. The weight cut is still a significant portion of his camp or of the process for him. He walks around 230 some pounds. Yeah, it is something that absolutely, I imagine, takes an impact on him. We lose some of the potential allure and luster for those super fights at heavyweight because he lost, but he has the chance to have that redemption arc going back down to fight Ankalaev. Who knows him? He never really had a chance to get into a rhythm and to get going because of the threats that Ankalaev presented. Going down through a couple more of the fights on this card here, and again, there was, or not again, I should say, because we haven't addressed it. There were 2 fights that were scrapped on fight day. Unfortunately, both of those involved Denver fighters. One of them was Curtis Blades. The other one was Chris Gutierrez. So unfortunately, again, those fights didn't actually come to play on the card, but hopefully they're back in action soon. And they get a chance to go out there and put themselves back in the limelight and make some money. In the co-main event, you had Justin Gaethje taking on Rafael Fiziev. Credit to Fiziev for coming in on short notice and being able to go toe-to-toe with Justin Gaethje for 15 minutes. He came out with a much different approach than I think everybody was expecting for Fiziev to come out there with. I was actually impressed by Fiziev's grappling early on, or his ability to choose to go about it. But then also, once Justin Gaethje decided to stop kicking to the body as heavily, then that stopped being such a factor as far as the game plan. Justin Gaethje also connected with a flush head kick. I mean, bone on bone. Fiziev just ate it. But then he got dropped by the uppercut. So it's just kind of crazy. MMA math doesn't always add up. But congratulations to Justin Gaethje. He's on the outside looking in of a title shot. I mean, obviously out there's Charles, who he has a loss to. There's Arman, who he's never fought, who those guys are also on the outside looking in of a title shot. What ends up happening at 55? It'll be interesting to see. Another matchup in the 155-pound division, you had Jalen Tarantula Turner taking on Ignacio Bahamondes. Lahala is a rising star. Ignacio Bahamondes is must-see TV whenever he fights. Jalen Turner, unfortunately, sometimes when it's up, it's up. And he was dealing with a lot of struggles, especially in between the ears after that loss to Moicano last year at UFC 300. Debated retirement and then decided, okay, I'm going to kick the tire one more time, and I'm going to see this fight is going to be kind of a measuring point, if you will, for me to see, do I keep going? Do I still have it? He gets submitted in the first round by Bahamondes, and he laid the gloves down. He retired. They didn't let him necessarily right away, or he didn't get his moment right in the cage, but he spoke to it afterwards backstage in his interviews, and yeah, he said he's done. And if that's the spot that he's at mentally, hopefully, he's at peace with the decision, and he's made enough money right now to be able to walk away and not have to worry about struggling because of the finances, whatever it may be in the future. Following from that, another couple of fights that I want to talk about here on the card. Let's stay in the lightweight division. The curtain jerker for the main card. You had Mauricio Rufy, the Fighting Nerds. They're sensational. They're tremendous. performance after performance that just goes out there and says, I am him. Whether it is Rufy, whether it is Kyle Bahallo, whether it is Carlos Prates, or whether it is John Silva. These guys are on such a special tear right now that to have the momentum that they do, it's rare. It really is. You got to appreciate it for what it is right now at the moment. You have Mauricio Rufy with one of the most sensational spinning wheel kick, spinning back kicks to Bobby Green for the knockout that we've ever seen in UFC history. That was essences of Edson Barbosa and Terry Edom. That's a highlight reel that will live on forever in MMA highlight reel history. Another fight that I want to talk about on the prelims before we move on. We had Joshua Van taking on Ray Soraya. Joshua Van is a rising prospect in that flyweight division. Ray is a strong Japanese wrestler, but after a while, the shots were so labored and so desperate that Van was able to see him coming from a mile away. He's able to see him coming from a mile away. He's able to stuff him, and he's able to continue moving about with his game. There, unfortunately for the undefeated prospect in Ray, that goes because he just didn't have anything beyond his first mode of attack. But that's a good lesson for him to learn going forward. One that, I mean, it's not that I ever want to wish bad or hope that someone gets hurt, but I can't stand the Fury FC broadcast commentating crew, and Alex Morono got the work put on him a little bit. Can't say that I necessarily didn't have a little bit of a moment of, okay, there's the justice right there. There it is. Don't want to go too much more in there because I don't want to be too crazy over the top with him there. But again, if you're not from Texas and you're fighting on a Fury card, good luck because they will disrespect you at every turn possible. The other fight on the card, that this one was as controversial of a decision as it could have possibly been. Myron Santos, tough champion from this most recent season, which certainly drew the ire of a lot of people out there in the crowd saying, oh, this was fixed. This was such a robbery, blah, blah, blah. He gets the win over Francis Marshall. And I mean, how? That's all I can possibly ask. That was one of the worst decisions that we've seen so far in 2025. And it just circles back to the discussion that we've had countless times on this program. We need public accountability from the judges to explain why they scored fights in the way that they scored them. Why? What gave you any sort of what made you think that he won that fight? That would be the only thing that I would ask. Just please explain these scores. How did he win these rounds? Because to a man, almost unanimously all across the board online, that was robbery being screamed from the top rope. Looking back last weekend at the Sparta AVM card, just a quick couple of shout outs there. You had Aaron Beltran picking up a big win. So I want to give a shout out to Aaron there. Beltran's Grill. Check them out up in the North Denver area, Broomfield area. Some of the best tacos in the surrounding spot. I'm not a drinker, but I know that they have award-winning margaritas as well. They go around to a lot of these little festivals and little pop-ups. He's a business owner who also fights within the community. He is now a rising undefeated pro prospect. If we have the opportunity to uplift our own, we might as well do so in the process, right? So shifting gears from that, we're going to talk now this week's UFC Fight Night card. This is a middleweight showcase. In the main event, you have number 8 ranked Marvin Vettori. He's taken on number 11 Roman Dolidze. Now, I don't know how much these guys' paths have crossed in Vegas, training ever at Extreme or through the traveling and times. Marvin has bounced around a few different spots. He was out of California for a while. He's down in South Florida a lot. This is a matchup of two guys who have a lot of similar traits, but are also quite different as far as fighters. They both have a bruiser type of quality about them. They're both more of a stocky build. They're both very durable in the process. I think that Vettori, he's a little bit more tough as you know what, too dumb to quit in the process. You know, he's got that, hey, you guys type of strength and look about him. But Roman Dolidze on the other side, he's an extremely accomplished grappler with highly tactical submissions and attacks. He's got wins over very respected and accomplished fighters within the division. And I think that this is a chance for Roman Dolidze to, now in this fight where they're running it back here, I think that this is an opportunity for Roman Dolidze, for himself to really kind of emerge and separate himself from the pack. Or again, he lost the first fight, but I think that he is a much different fighter right now than he was the first time that they fought. I think that he's had a couple of big wins since then that have added to his confidence, which have added to his momentum. And I think that this is a chance for Roman Dolidze to really go out there, and he's going to look to insert himself into that top 10 discussion now. You have a co-main event between Chidi Njokuani and Elizeu dos Santos. You have two guys who love to go out there, and it should be a striker's delight. Chidi Njokuani is got such sensational kickboxing. His brother, also a UFC veteran. The Muay Thai that those two guys have is it's fun to watch. I think that this is a fight that the fans win. Running through a couple more here on the card, you have a matchup between Alexander Hernandez, Denver fighter. He's taken on Kurt Holobaugh. Kurt Holobaugh, champion of last year's season of Tough, the Chandler versus McGregor season. Kurt Holobaugh was a guy who was in the UFC earlier on a few years ago, had a detour back down to the regional scene, picks up some wins, gets on the Ultimate Fighter, goes, runs the table there, and has been back in the UFC. And he's just a dog, tough, gritty veteran. He's a legit black belt on the ground, and he will mix it up and bang it out in the pocket. On the flip side, you have Alexander Hernandez, who he is also a slick grappler with a high IQ in positional sequences and being able to work his game. But then on the flip side, as a striker, I think that Alex is absolutely the more explosive guy. I mean, we've seen highlight reel knockouts from Alex, such as the knockout against Beneil Dariush coming into the UFC. His knockouts against guys like Christian Grutzemacher, Mike Breeden, those sorts of knockouts. Kurt Holobaugh has one hell of a chin. I don't know if that's the type of knockout that we see from Alex, but I think that we might see a very similar matchup or a very similar fight, the way that we saw a back and forth, just veteran slobber knocker type of fight that Alex had with Thud Hubbard. I think that there's a good chance that this is a very stylistically similar fight with Kurt. I know that that's not the fight that he probably wants. He wants to go in there, get in clean, bang, bang, pick up 50K, walk out. Just looking at it on paper, trying to be balanced and be objective in the process, I think that if Alex is on, he does absolutely, and he finds the button, he could put anybody out. We know that. If he doesn't, though, this has the chance with Holobaugh being a gritty vet, he might be able to go back and forth with him for a little bit. Also on the card, following that, you have Damon Blackshear taking on another veteran of that same season of The Ultimate Fighter with Kurt Holobaugh and Cody Gibson. That's going to be a fight between a couple of guys with a tremendous amount of experience. Bantamweight matchup, Damon Blackshear is a guy who has some very slick grappling in his own right. Cody Gibson is a grappler who has some slick boxing in the process to be able to work his systems. But a matchup that is opening the card, who I think you're going to see a much different fighter for the first time that he was in the UFC when he made his debut against Ludwig Klein. You have AJ the Savage Cunningham taking on Soo Young Yu. Soo Young Yu out of South Korea, a very talented fighter. Coming into the contest 14-3 against AJ's 11-4. But I think that AJ made his debut on short notice. He got the call on Monday, fought on Saturday. Up a weight class from where he had been. He had been fighting at 45, but had just been kind of roaming, didn't really have a full system, didn't have a complete structure to his game and his programming and his regimen. That was his first week at Factory X. Literally 40 minutes into his first training session there, he gets the call that he is making his debut against Klein. It's been almost a year since that fight. A year of training, a year of working all of his systems, learning the Factory X way of doing things, going under the tutelage of Mark Montoya and actually figuring out, hey, like there are systems, tactics, strategies. You don't have to just go in there and brawl it out. And the growth that I think that you'll see is immeasurable. AJ's making his debut at bantamweight. So, yes, technically it's 2 weight classes down from where he made his debut, but again, on just a week's notice, he made his debut at 55, a weight class up. Now all the way down at 35 though, I mean, lean, fast, agile, and you want to talk about a scrambling SOB. If this hits the canvas at all, look to see explosive scrambling from AJ Cunningham. Moving down through the card, got a couple more that we're going to talk about here. We have a heavyweight matchup between Waldo Cortez Acosta taking on Superman Ryan Spann. Waldo Cortez Acosta being the former professional baseball pitcher, we know what he wants to do. He wants to throw the fastball. On the opposite side of the coin, Ryan Spann wants to punch your block off too. Ryan Spann has ran into some issues throughout his career, potentially with his consistency, or rather, I say dedication to his training. We talked about a few fights back, already a significant amount of time into his UFC run, that he was just barely starting to actually train. But now this going up in terms of, class and fight, all that, it makes me question, where is Ryan Spann at in terms of his dedication here? On the flip side, I could also see him looking at it from a perspective of, well, hey, I've had my ups and downs at light heavyweight, and there's some contenders right now where there's some guys that I might not be able to get past to be able to get to title contention or to be able to get toward a top ranked spot. On the flip side, heavyweight, boo boo, garbage, trash, arguably the worst that it's ever been. There's only 30 on the entire roster. You win a couple of fights at heavyweight and you're a ranked guy looking on the outside of being considered a contender. That's how bad it is right now. So I could see Ryan Spann thinking, hey, I've got the power. Maybe I just don't cut weight and I go and see what I can do at heavyweight. It'll be interesting to see. We will only know the answers to some of those questions once they lock the door on Saturday. Next fight, I just want to show some love to Sam Page, Sam Hughes. Sam Hughes is a former LFA fighter, then made her way into the UFC. Sam's a grinder. Sam is one of those who is an athlete turned fighter. She was a cross country runner in college. And that's noted in her fights. Some of her best performances and wins in the UFC is just her ability to endure and outlast anything that her opponents brought to her. I think that this is an opportunity again for her to go out there and to be not necessarily a hype train killer, but to go out there and to say like, hey, like you are you're the young prospect, Stephanie. You're coming in here with only a handful of fights. I've been here. This is a chance for Sam to go and do that. Another matchup on the card to talk about. You have UDSC Dubin coming out of coming off of that one hitter quitter, one of the most explosive knockouts by a punch that we've ever seen by a female, and especially on the Contender Series. She's been doing a lot of her training out of here in the Denver area. She's making her UFC debut this weekend. So that's a fight that, hey, I think that you have the chance to see a couple of young, hungry fighters on the roster and have the opportunity to go out there and showcase their skill. If she has a knockout again, the way that she did on the Contender Series, and does it on a UFC card, you're looking at a potential rising star who's going to start to get a lot of resources and push from the UFC, because that's just not something that we're typically accustomed to seeing. Going to move along now to talk about the Midwest Championship Fighting St. Paddy's Beatdown. Now, this is a show that year after year, they put out a quality product. Russ Jones, he does 2 shows a year. They do the Salute to the Veterans in November, and they do the St. Paddy's Beatdown. This is a show that showcases a lot of their local talent in that North Platte and that Nebraska footprint, but there's also a considerable amount of Denver and Colorado-based fighters who are always on that card as well, especially with some of these fights that we're going to talk about and names that we're going to throw out there, and you'll understand exactly why. But this is one of those cards that, again, please support the product as much as you can. If you can't make it out there to North Platte, there is the option for you to be able to watch the stream. We're going to talk through some of the details here. Looking at the card, Russ Jones believes that this is the best card in the organization's history. It's going to be going down at the D&N Event Center. The main card kicks off with a fight between Donald Bristol and Matt Seaman, 2 guys with a couple of genuine dislike for each other. What's better than a grudge match? A couple of guys who have a lot of vinegar and you-know-what between them, and they want to go out there and settle a score. Sign me up. There's a street fight championship. Street fight. When I first saw an MCF show years ago, that was such a wild concept that I saw on the card, but all of us loved it. I mean, somewhere out there, I can hear Danny Molina from Skywalker Boxing out there in Omaha. Street fight. But there's a couple of title fights on this card. So many names that I think that you could either watch as they're growing in their career, or those who are on the cusp of potentially making it to that next level. And like I say, MCF does a tremendous job of being able to put themselves out there and just give a quality product for a show out there in North Platte, Nebraska. You have a feature fight that is between a couple of high-level amateurs. You have MCF Nebraska amateur flyweight champion Jared Huerta coming in with a 6-1 record. He's out of North Platte directly. He's taking on Jacob Cochran, who is 3-0 out of Colorado Springs. Now, this is an opportunity for Huerta to potentially make that title fight, make that defense, and potentially go on and go the pro route. Not sure what his exact plan is or where his coaches see his trajectory, but goes out there and has a second win. I mean, it puts himself in a very good position there. On the flip side, with Jacob Cochran, that's a win over a very solid amateur who amateur champion in Jared Huerta, who competes in multiple different disciplines and is a fighter's fighter. I mean, if you see anything in the buildup, I guarantee you're going to see some Diaz-esque qualities coming from Jared Huerta in the process. He's at a Vicious Cycle. Vicious Cycle has a couple of guys on the card as well. Chris Burbine is going to be on the card. You also have Jason Scott. Going to talk a little bit more about him in a minute. But the fight that, to me, I mean, in this, call it for what it is, close to the forest. Love both of these guys. One of them is the first main event that I ever called. He was one half of the first main event of a card that I ever did commentary for, and it was then the co-main event of one of the first cards that I ever did for Combat Club way back when, and that's Caleb Crump. But he also is taking on someone who I consider a dear friend, teammate. He's one of my professors, which is, for those who don't know jiu-jitsu terminology, that's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. He's someone who's been there for every step of the way with my journey in this martial arts game, and that's Austin Osmosis Jones. Austin Osmosis Jones is the current MCF welterweight champion, the former Nebraska Cornhusker running back, goes out there and puts on a show for the Nebraska crowd every single time. I mean, the pop that he gets out there is it's like you would imagine that you're on a Saturday out there in Big Red Country all over again. Austin is a very well-rounded fighter. He's a skilled, multifaceted athlete. Caleb is one of the best grapplers in the entire country at that weight class, and especially in jiu-jitsu specific competition. But it's a fight. It's not straight jiu-jitsu, so it's going to be interesting to see how they're able to mix it up. Now, there's a lot of familiarity between some of the different camps and crossover with fights and former teammates and so on and so forth. I don't know how much that factors in when you're talking about guys who have this type of experience, especially Austin going on, 30 fights as a pro now at this point. I don't think it really matters to him. I don't think it really cares that he's trained with or fought against a bunch of guys who are in Caleb's corner or in his camp. Statement from Russ Jones on Austin Jones is, if Austin Jones wins this fight, he could easily be called up to a bigger promotion. MCF is like a farm league in baseball, and it's exciting to see these guys have the chance to show themselves off and move up to the big leagues. It's an opportunity for both of themselves to go out there and to put on a show. And yeah, if Austin goes out there and has a successful title defense and does so in exciting fashion, he does set himself up for a great opportunity going forward there. In the main event, you have a showcase between North Platte fan favorite Jason Scott. Jason Scott has been going all around the world training and competing over the last few months. He won ADCC trials in Tokyo. He just came back from Thailand, getting some striking specific training in the mix. He's taken on the #1 professionally ranked flyweight in New Mexico, a guy who I've seen fight on a number of occasions, in Ozzy Chavez. Ozzy Chavez is a gamer. This is not going to be an easy fight for Jason Scott. Jason Scott is well equipped with the tools all across the board, though, to be able to get the job done. This is a matchup that when I saw it on paper, I thought, wow, no, this is absolutely one of the most spectacular regional matchups that you could have made from guys within that weight class and top talent there. So if you have the chance, please check these guys out, because you have the opportunity for a couple of guys who you may see again on the next level. And especially as young as Jason Scott is, he keeps on winning and keeps on climbing the ranks and adding hardware and accolades to his resume. That's a guy that we're going to see in a big show before too long. Some of the other fighters within that local footprint who, if you're following along from the area, want to give a shout out to: Austin Geiger, Carlos Alvarez, Chris Burbine, Anthony Hill, Hunter Green, and Dylan Martinez. Some of the event details for MCF St. Paddy's Beatdown. The event date is going to be March 15th. That is Saturday, at the D&N Event Center in North Platte, Nebraska. Doors open at 4:30. Fights are going to start at roughly 6 p.m. Tickets and pay-per-view are available at MidwestChampionshipFighting.com. If you have any questions, you can contact Russ Jones at 308-530-5213. Midwest Championship Fighting is committed to delivering an unforgettable night of action-packed fights showcasing the various levels of skill and dedication in the sport of mixed martial arts. Guys, we're going to wrap things up here in just a minute by going 3 rounds. But first, I want to talk to you about a project here in the community that is something that hits close to home, and it's also a great benefit to whoever is on the receiving end. And that's the Guardian program. Guardian is a project that delivers jiu-jitsu for all. Guardian is a nonprofit organization that's committed to providing free youth jiu-jitsu scholarships to underserved youth around the world. They are offering children year-round stability and consistency through their programs, focusing not just on their physical transformation, but also on fostering positive friendships, mentorship opportunities, and a secure environment during the challenging times. By partnering with established and trustworthy communities, and trustworthy academies, you as a donor can trust that a minimum of 85% of your contribution will go to directly funding the scholarships for the students that Guardian supports. There are more than 390 underserved youth students that are currently fully sponsored within their 17 projects worldwide. You can check out factoryxmuaythai.com today to make your tax-deductible donation and help support a youth student immediately. But now we're going to switch things up. We're going to go 3 rounds and close out the hour. I got my man, Danny Bailey, behind the glass. I say behind the glass all the time. When we were at the other studio, we had the glass removed for a couple of months, and it just was kind of, just a habit of speech. But now we got the glass back, Danny.
I'm back in the box, baby.
Back in the box.
All right. FBI Director Kash Patel has been on record saying he wants to have UFC fighters train FBI agents. What are your thoughts on this?
It's definitely a great PR move. I don't know. I think that as a whole, law enforcement should get as much, or they need more. I don't want to necessarily say as much because that puts an uncapped flow, I guess, but they deserve more resources, period, whether it is on the local to the federal level in terms of training and becoming more well-equipped to handle. There's going to be some people who are on the flip side saying, oh, well, why do they need to be training them in martial arts and, things that could be harmful hand-to-hand, so on and so forth? Well, there's a multifaceted approach to that because part of it is if you're that capable to handle yourself in a physical manner, the chances that you might panic and escalate things to a firearm are potentially going to be reduced. Now, my sources are, trust me, bro, I don't know any data or anything along those lines to support that statement that I just made, but I do know that the more training that you have, the more confident that you feel. And when you're more confident, you're not going to make a panicked decision. That's what I would say to the process. So what that equates to actual criminology, statistics, data, any of all of that, I don't know. I'm a knuckle dragging moron who just trains martial arts. There we have it. Don't take legal advice from me.
UFC 313 was plagued by technical issues on pay-per-view with the exclusive negotiating window closing in a month. How does this impact a potential renewal with ESPN?
This absolutely impacts negotiations for that renewal with ESPN, and this was a massive swing in leverage toward the UFC. This was the second week in a row that a Disney platform took it in the shorts for a live stream program. Last week it was the Academy Awards on Hulu for people who still watch that. But that's either way, that's something that is a pattern. It's an issue that ESPN comes back with a statement that just kind of is bewildering in its own way. And we'll go through some of the layers of this, but ESPN says, and quote, unfortunately, we experienced a technical issue that impacted purchases of the UFC pay-per-view on ESPN Plus shortly after 10 p.m. Eastern Time. ESPN said in the statement, our teams identified and resolved the issue, restoring full functionality ahead of the main event. We apologize for the inconvenience and are taking steps to ensure a better experience in the future. Wow. So I mean, if you were in that boat, you missed the Roofy knockout, you missed the Justin Gaethje fight. Yeah, that's rough. That's just such a rough experience from a consumer standpoint, because especially as it currently stands, pay-per-view is still a big part of the model for the UFC. They ask us to support the product by buying the pay-per-view versus streaming illegally. But then frustrating and infuriating situations like this happen with a platform that is used to purchase and view the product, and it either drives eyes directly to those pirated streams, or they don't watch live altogether. And it leaves those fans or those potential viewers with a sour taste in their mouth. So you're driving people to exactly what you're asking them not to do because of issues with the product in that capacity. The negotiating window closes in roughly a month with other interest parties out there. There is Prime, there is the Netflix situation out there where you're never probably going to have something that is null and void of issues. But I do believe that this could be another push in the direction of Netflix and for the UFC to follow their banner brethren in the WWE underneath the TKO holdings company. They go Netflix with premium live events in the process. Netflix houses their regular weekly programming, and then they're going to have their premium live events like Royal Rumble, Elimination Chamber, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, so on and so forth, that are housed on a couple of different things that could be sourced for other rights like Peacock and other things of that nature. It's already coming down to the 11th hour for that exclusive window with ESPN. I would not be surprised at all to see the UFC have a new home in 2026. Plain and simple.
BJ Penn has sparked a deep cause for concern after his recent string of social media posts. As the severity of his posts increases, should action be taken to intervene?
Where's Britney Spears' dad? This is not good. I mean, as an OG fan who came up in the BJ Penn era, it's hard to watch. CTE is real. Address the elephant in the room in the process. He right now, on top of, he's always been a little bit out there with some of his conspiracy theories and stuff of that sort, but right now is basically alleging that his mom has been switched out. And he's made a couple of videos like showing of like her in the video, like, oh well, this isn't her. They killed my mom and they replaced her with this woman and blah blah blah. And yeah, it's not good at all. Like, I mean, I don't know what the grounds are for, for welfare checks or for, putting people on a hold or some of those. But if there's ever a case where something of that nature or a conservatorship or whatever is needed, unfortunately, we're at that point with BJ. BJ gets a lot of pass from the community because of what he was able to accomplish and because of what he did while he was an athlete and a competitor. His nickname was the Prodigy for a reason. He got his black belt within 3 years and then goes and wins the black belt world championships. It's not like it was just McDojo, oh, well, we're just going to for show give you your black belt here. And then there was no substance behind it. No, he earned that black belt within 3 years and then went and competed in the Black Belt World Championships and won the sumbitch at such a young age, then goes and becomes a UFC champion in 2 divisions and just has such a fall from grace that it is going to need to be studied. The losses at the end of his run in the UFC, coupled with multiple arrests for drunken offenses, whether drunken disorderly, DUI, getting knocked out at bars by regular Joe patrons, domestic violence cases, and then now after his failed run for public office, these conspiracy theories, and now the situation with his mom, it's not good. You know, unfortunately, I don't think that it's going to get better. So hopefully BJ gets some help and things can turn around. But just like that, folks, we are all out of time. We want to thank you all so much for tuning in and rocking with us here as we stream live from the number 38. I'm Jordan Kurtz. I want to give a thank you to my man Danny Bailey behind the glass, holding it down for me each and every week. You know, this is something special for us here in the Colorado area to have so many great sports that we do, whether it be from the fight end to the Big Four and everything in its collective. So again, make sure that you check them out all across the board here at Mile High Sports. Hit that like, share, and subscribe wherever possible. If you have any heaters on the books, make sure that you hit them boys up who can bet. I don't, but again, we're happy to discuss whatever you might want to talk about in the sports world and in the combat sports realm. We're going to be back here next week, chatting it up with you, talking about the action from this weekend and previewing next week. We'll see you next week, folks. I'm Jordan Kurtz. Give me a follow online at Comments from the Peanut Gallery. This is the MMA Plug presented to you by Mile High Sports.